This past March, I took my friend Joanne's workshop on getting your book published. Now, my book, the first in a would-be trilogy, was not finished, but I knew where it was going, and I knew I wanted to get it published, hence the workshop. In class, we drafted query letters and read them out loud, and everybody loved the way my letter referenced both Die Hard and Game of Thrones, and everybody said they wanted to read my book. And they didn't say that to everybody. That got me excited. I wanted to start submitting my query letter to agents right away, except for this one little rule Joanne gave us, which is that the book actually has to be done. A few weeks later, I was whining to my friend Anne about how awesome my query letter was and how I was just raring to send it out to agents, except for the fact that I hadn't finished my book yet, and that was the problem, finishing. Every week I tell myself I'm going to write the next chapter or the next 1,000 words, or I'm just going to spend 1 hour a day working on my book, and then every week stuff gets in the way. Whenever I have a storytelling show, though, I write my story. Why can't I do that with my book? Anne said, storytelling gives you a deadline. You need that for your novel. I try, I set goals, it just doesn't work. She said, you need a real deadline. Why don't you go ahead and send that query letter off to an agent? They'll take at least a month to respond, and you'll know you have to get the book done. That sounded like a stupid idea. I called my friend Joanne and I said, this is crazy, right? I can't lie about having a completed manuscript. I don't even know how long the book's gonna be. Joanne said, that sounds like exactly what you need to motivate you to finish your book. It'll take an agent at least a month to respond, and you can guess at the length. So with her blessing, I figured, what the hell, right? Nothing else was working. I might as well try. But if I was going to query an agent to motivate me to finish my book, I was going to get the best motivation possible by querying the best agent possible. I did a little research and I found Neil Gaiman's agent. I mean, the man's a rock star. Who wouldn't love to have his career? And he writes in my genre. It turns out his agent, whom we'll call Mary, works for the largest talent agency in Manhattan. Of course she does. Even better. On their website it says, send query letters via snail mail and someone will respond in 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, other than the weirdness of snail mail, 6 to 8 weeks sounded perfect. Wednesday, I printed out my query letter. I put it in an envelope with a stamp on it and everything, uttered a silent prayer, and placed it in the mailbox. Now, my first thought was, holy shit, right? Like, I have 6 weeks now, because she's obviously gonna respond, to finish this book that I had been working on for over a year. I should start writing. Just not today. I mean, I had printed and mailed a query letter. That was enough writing for one day. And then Thursday, I was just slammed at work. And Friday, well, it's Friday. Nobody writes on a Friday. But Friday afternoon, that Friday afternoon at 4:45 p.m., I got a giant kick in the ass. The assistant to Neil Gaiman's agent sent me an email saying, Mary would love to read your novel. Please email it to us. Holy shitballs, Batman. I freaked out. Neil Gaiman's agent wanted to read my book. This was the best thing that could possibly ever happen to me. I was going to get the best agent in the world. Except there was this matter of the little white lie I had told. I think I had said something like a completed 50,000 word manuscript when what I actually had was a half-completed 30,000 word draft of a book. What the hell happened to 6 to 8 weeks? And what's with this sudden love affair with email? At least if I could have stuck with snail mail, I could have blamed it on the postal service. What was I supposed to do now? A little quick thinking later, and I came up with an excuse. I'm a writer, right? I can do those things. I was on vacation with no access to my manuscript, and yet somehow access to email. I would be back in 2 weeks and would send the manuscript then. The assistant wrote back and said, "Wonderful. We look forward to receiving it." Whew, that bought me time. I mean, the first 60% of the book had taken me a year and a half, and now I had 2 weeks. I had to finish the plot and then write at least 20,000 more words because I had claimed that my book was that long, and also because 50,000 words is a good length for a beach read. For those of you who don't count words, your typical blog article is about 500 words. So I had to write the equivalent of 40 of those in 2 weeks. No problem. I took 2 weeks off of work, canceled all my meetings, subbed out my work, handed the baby off to my husband, and I dug in. Every morning I woke up and I wrote all day, and it was awesome. Aside from it being very hard work, all I kept thinking was, why have I never done this before? And thank God I loved it, right? Because I could have hated it. But apparently, all I really did need was a deadline. 2 weeks and 22,000 words later, I submitted my completed 52,000 word manuscript. Mary's assistant wrote back and said, "You'll get a response in 4 to 6 weeks." I was in for a month of nail biting. Now, Mary didn't allow for simultaneous submissions, so I couldn't query any other agents while waiting, which was fine, because I was already assuming very soon I would be hanging out with Neil Gaiman and a bunch of other uber successful authors at Swank, New York, and LA parties, just as soon as Mary wrote back and said, "Yes, I am going to represent you, and guess what? I already have a movie and book deal lined up." Fortunately, I didn't have to wait the full 4 weeks, or my imagination might have gotten ahead of me. 3 days later, Mary's assistant wrote back and said, "Mary only takes on a few projects a year and so has to have a real passion for them. She wishes you all the success in life, but this is not the project for her." It really was a very nice rejection letter. But somehow I found the actual rejection somewhat demotivating. All those dreams that had inflated in the back of my brain while I worked my fingers to the bone over those 2 weeks came crashing down, and all those insecurities I had felt all of my life about the possibility of becoming an author in a society when no one reads anyone other than Neil fucking Gaiman flared up. After working so hard, only to have your baby rejected by an 82-word email, it made it really hard for me to want to get back to work on it. Anne said, "You finished your manuscript. You have a completed novel. That's huge." "Yeah, I guess so." Joanne said, "The fact that they responded so quickly means that you have a good idea. People will be interested." I mean, that's a valid point. But while I continue to look for a literary agent, I know that I need to make more revisions on the first book, and I know I need to start working on the second book, but it's hard to get motivated, especially now that I definitely do not have a deadline. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now to push myself, to force myself to get the thing done. Maybe I should just change my query letter to say I have a completed 160,000 word trilogy. But that would be crazy, right? Thank you.